So I just got back from seeing Death of a Unicorn in theaters, and if you're new to this channel, we do honest reviews. I'm not doing any crazy edits or clickbait to try to make you stay or watch. This is just me telling you guys like it is and if this movie is worth watching. I'll be going through different parts of the movie, saying what was good, what was bad, explaining my interpretation of the ending, and giving my final ranking at the end of the video. If you like this type of normal content, consider subscribing. Here's how I describe this movie in one sentence. Thank God Will Poulter was there. His lines were genuinely funny, and without him, this movie would have been way less entertaining. People online have been calling this another A24 Eat the Rich story. And while I think it is part of the story, I wouldn't say that's all this movie is. I'd describe it as a more satirical horror movie, but there's choices it makes in terms of what they focus on which I don't like, and I'll explain more of that later in the video. To set the stage, we start with Paul Rudd's character and Jenna Ortega's character on the way to meet with the head family of a pharmaceutical company, that which Paul Rudd is the attorney for. They crash into a unicorn on the way there, and essentially Jenna Ortega has a connection with it because she touches its horn. Based on the trailer, I thought they would do the Jaws thing where you don't see the unicorn yet, but then at the climax you would see the whole thing, but they don't do that in this movie. You see the unicorn in its full CGI form right away, front and center. The first choice that I didn't like in this movie, and this is nitpicking here, but it's a common trope I see in a lot of movies, is that a few minutes after Jenna Ortega has those visions from touching the unicorn's horn, she's obviously a little traumatized from it. So when they arrive at the house, she zones out while everyone else is talking, and they show a close-up of her face. The movie then cuts to a flashback of what we just saw 10 minutes ago of her touching the horn, and that annoys me. I don't need to be spoon-fed this. Let your actors act and let Ortega convey to the audience that she's still traumatized from what happened through her facial expressions, not through a super obvious flashback. Anyway, my interest was actually piqued in the beginning of the movie as the unicorn's blood has special healing powers like healing Ortega's acne or fixing Paul Rudd's eyesight or even curing Richard Grant's cancer. The way that the rich pharmaceutical company reacts to this is very satirical and was funny. Like the line when he says his friend needs an 8-ball, it's obviously conveying that those type of people don't care about helping the average person. Where this movie loses me though is when it's trying to explain like the lore of these unicorns and when it's trying to explore this relationship between Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, it just slows down the whole movie and makes it boring. Like I understand you want some type of backstory with this, but I wish the movie would just stick to its strengths of the good parts. It's like every movie that comes out now can't help from adding boring scenes that break up the momentum for the sake of what they call character development. And I say that in that tone because it's nothing even that substantial. There's still ways to do character development without making it just boring dialogue. But anyway, to get more into the good parts of the movie that I wish they did more of, it turns into a monster horror movie towards the third act, and this part I really enjoyed. Most horror movies seem to be about like possessed demonic creatures, so this was a nice change of pace for me because the monsters in this movie are just unicorns, so it makes it more enjoyable. The violence is fun and felt intentionally planned out, like the fact that they have these sharp horns coming out makes for some gruesome kills that were actually fun. The CGI for the unicorns are hit or miss. There's some scenes where it's amazing and it feels like they're real life animals, and other scenes where the animation is just off and it takes you out of it a little bit. There's one jump scare in the whole movie, which I respect because even though it's not that type of movie, you have to throw in at least one. But before I get into explaining the ending, I first want to talk about Alex Sharfman's directing. This was his directorial debut and I think he did a great job. Now, I don't think there was anything like truly special about his directing. I think it was pretty standard, but there was nothing really bad about the way it was filmed. In fact, there were definitely a few shots that I thought were composed really well. So about the ending, the unicorns come together and obviously with their healing powers, they're able to resurrect the baby unicorn along with Paul Rudd's character. Once this happens, the unicorns turn back to silver, which symbolizes them becoming like pure again, I guess, and they run off all happy. The police then come and arrest Paul Rudd and Jenna Ortega, and the whole thing is now that the world will know about these unicorns because they're gonna try to prove that they're innocent, but then the movie ends with the unicorn showing up and crashing the cop car and it cuts to black. To me, the unicorns are killing the cop and then they're just going to revive or heal Jenna Ortega and Paul Rudd. making their secret safe with them, as now they won't be arrested and can leave on their own. They give each other a little look, and Ortega and Rudd put on their seatbelt and brace for impact, so I think they know it's coming. So overall, I think this movie was good. It was definitely funny, and the horror, action, violence was fun. I do think they shifted their focus too much from those fun parts, and those scenes were boring when they did that. This movie would have benefited from just sticking to what it was, a satirical horror movie, and not trying to add any deep underlying messaging. So while I don't think it was anything too special, I definitely say it's worth a theater visit as it's funny and you get some good horror scenes that aren't too scary. I'm giving this movie a 3 out of 5 stars, and if you guys are curious, you could check out my letterbox, but let me know in the comments your rating and what you thought, and we could talk.